What up? What up? All right, guys. Rams lose in a heartbreaker. Divisional round loss to the Eagles in Philadelphia, 28-22. This game had all kinds of drama, Tyler. We're going to break down this incredible playoff game, despite the fact that the Rams did end up losing. Welcome to Bleav in Rams, part of the Bleav Network. Erin Coscarelli with you, joined by my co-host Tyler Dragon of USA Today. Be sure to do all the things: subscribe, comment, rate, follow this podcast. We're officially live. We're officially live to break down the Rams' heartbreaker, devastating, season-ending loss in the divisional round to the Eagles. I got to ask you, first and foremost, how you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing good. Luckily, it's a little bit warmer here in Los Angeles, so we got some sunshine. A lot better than the snowy conditions in Philadelphia yesterday, and I'm doing better than the Rams are doing, unfortunately. So, how are you doing?
I'm good. I think there's a lot to dice up with the Rams. And we're going to do that in today's episode. We're going to talk about the loss in Philadelphia, much closer than I think a lot of people expected. Certainly came down to that final play of the game. It was definitely a nail biter. Our producer, Ethan, is a big Eagles fan and said he got very sweaty to the end of the game. And I think all of us surprised with how things panned out. And I want to get your take on all of that. How much do you think first and foremost, the weather played a role in this loss for the Rams?
So it's funny when it started like snowing pretty bad. I was like thinking in my head, if it snows in this game or if it snows bad, then the Rams are definitely going to lose. California team playing in inclement weather, especially the snow, not used to that type of environment. But they played well in the snow considering the circumstances. I do believe that obviously the weather had an impact. You can't run crisp routes in the snow. You saw a lot of receivers kind of like rounding out their routes. And as a defensive back, you really have to play very conservative because you don't want to get beat on a long ball in the snow. So receivers try to make double moves. You have to play very conservative and be on your heels a lot. So it affected the entire game. And you can see that both teams really tried to establish running the football. Kiron Williams had over 100 rushing yards, had a decent game aside from that fumble, a costly fumble, I might add. But again, it was Saquon Barkley, over 200 yards rushing for the Eagles against the Rams again in snowy weather or rain, snow, whatever inclement weather it is. The key is to being able to run the football because it is very difficult to pass.
Yeah.
Passing, your hands are slippery, your hands are wet. Snow can get in your eyes.
You can't see. I mean, it seemed like visibility was an issue. You couldn't see the yard markers. You couldn't see the hash.
Exactly. So it comes down to which teams can run the football the best. And for the Eagles, that fit right into their hands because they probably have the best, hottest running back in the NFL right now.
Of course. They had the clear advantage. I was texting with everyone when the snow was starting to fall, and I'm like, well, this is not going to go well for the Rams. But actually, and you did see, in fact, Sean McVay after the game mentioned it. He said, the weather did play a factor, right? You had the fumbles, you had the drop passes. Puka, I want to talk about Puka's game in a moment, but Puka dropping some, surprising, uncharacteristic passes. And it just seemed like they were going to have to switch ultimately their game plan to adjust and account for the weather. And despite all of that, it ended up coming down to the final game, to the final play of the game. What was your biggest takeaway with how you saw? I mean, what was your reaction at the very end when, of course, they tried to sling it to Puka? Unfortunately, wasn't any good. But that it came down because in my opinion, Saquon, when he broke off for that 78-yard run
Yeah.
and scored, I thought that's it. That's a
Yeah.
wrap. 13 points up. And then they came back with a 4-yard touchdown to Parkinson, and they were still in it. Unfortunately, was not able to get it done. But what were your thoughts the final drive, last couple minutes of the game when the Rams still had a shot?
So you have to give Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, and the Rams credit for bouncing back after that back-breaking touchdown run. I mean, I thought it was over 2 once Saquon broke that 70-plus yard run. But for them to respond and have a chance to win in that final drive of the game, first of all, Puka Nakua's catch to get the Rams in scoring position was remarkable. In the snow, that throw that Matt Stafford was remarkable. Now, the last play of the game was the inverse of that. I mean, I thought, I wish Stafford would have given Nakua a catchable ball. I mean, he threw it out of bounds.
I know,
even if it was intercepted, give him a chance, the receiver a chance. You almost knew he was going to Nakua on that play or Cup with the game on the line. But I would just wish that he would have thrown that ball a little bit, infield of play to give his receiver a chance. Now, maybe the snow, the weather had an impact on the throw. Stafford did not say after the game. Maybe it could have slipped out of his hands, but I just wish that he threw a better ball at the end of the game. But to get down there, I mean, I was under the impression that they had the momentum. They had the Eagles on their heels. They're playing no huddle. I mean, and going down there, and the Eagles, you can tell they were on their heels. But then that third down play when Jalen Carter broke through, I mean, he had an Aaron Donald-esque game against the Rams, ironically. And then that fourth down play, oh man, it left a lot to be desired, because you left wondering what if the offensive line didn't have a breakdown of protection on that third down, which allowed Jalen Carter to get a free run at Stafford. That was the last player you want to give a free run to Stafford. And then the fourth down play, it was just 2 bad plays by the Rams offense. And unfortunately, that was the game. And it just spoiled what looked like a promising drive when they had all the momentum. But that's how much momentum could shift in the NFL game. Just those 2 plays just killed it all.
Yeah, there was so many different momentum shifts throughout the game. Even in the beginning of the game, when that incomplete pass was overturned, remember Matthew Stafford's like, call the challenge. Yeah. It ended up being an actual pass. There were so many, and then the safety on Jalen, and then we got the ball back. The Rams got the ball back and couldn't capitalize. There were so many ups and downs and drama. And I mean, this game had everything you could possibly imagine. Even a rookie, potential rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, calling out Eagles fans. And then the drama before the game, he's walking on the sideline, kind of stirring up the drama. I mean, it was really, to me, the best postseason game we've had so far this season. But what a tough ending to what was a challenge-filled, adversity-filled season for the Rams. And to have it come to this, it's bittersweet for me.
Yeah, it is bittersweet, but I want to be optimistic about the Rams because they exceeded all of our expectations. I said and admitted before in this podcast, I did not predict the Rams to go to the playoffs. I did not predict them to win the NFC West, and lo and behold, they did both.
Yeah.
And I had them losing to the Vikings last week. So they exceeded all of my expectations. I was wrong. You were right, Lindsay. You had the Rams doing much better this year than I did. So for that, I think that they deserve a lot of credit for what they did. And they should be optimistic about going into 2025. I mean, you do need to figure out things with Matt Stafford. He has no guaranteed money remaining on his contract. But offensively, you already have your identity. Cooper Kupp has taken over as the primary receiving option for the Rams.
Cooper Kupp?
Puka Nacua has taken over as the primary receiving option for the Rams. And then Kiron Williams, 1,000-yard rusher, coming off a really good 2024 season. And then a defense that is playing above their heads. They're young.
Right.
They're hungry. Probably the defensive rookie of the year in Jared Verse. Fisk, even though he got hurt in that game, we expect him to be back in 2025. It's just there's a lot to be optimistic about for this Rams team on both sides of the ball. They're young and they're a hungry team, and now they're battle tested because they have been in the playoffs. Those young players are battle.
Yeah, that's right. That's a really good point. And they stepped up to the call. You know, I think if there's one thing I feel refreshed about is certainly Sean McVay. Listening to him after the game, he had a really special quote. If I can find it. But what I sensed was exactly like what you said. To me, this rejuvenates a guy like Matthew Stafford to want to come back and play. Yeah. Like the future feels bright for this young team. Obviously, a lot of changes happened this season without an Aaron Donald and all of those things. The Rams have seemed to hit right when it comes to the draft, especially these young guys the last few years. And a guy like Sean McVay will want to come back. He said this after the game. He said, "This is a special season. As much fun as I've had, as much as if you ever wanted to do right for the people in your locker room. We've had a lot of special teams. With this team, there was something special about them." Feels like a rejuvenated Sean McVay, being battle tested, being able to come through with the way the season began and to finish in this way. Feels like you said the future is bright. I do want to talk to you about what the Rams could do, in your opinion, in terms of improvement in 2025. I'm not done with this game yet. Real quick, though, some of you guys are jumping in. Appreciate your thoughts and your questions. Feel free to ask myself or Tyler Dragon anything you thought of, whether it was the game they played last night or during the season. This it's quote comment coming in from Rams #1 fan said, "Did we see Stafford's last game?" I don't think so. Do you think?
No, I know he was asked about it after the game, and he said that the game just ended, 30 minutes ago. So he's not thinking about that right now. He has no remaining guaranteed money in his contract. The Rams did adjust his contract before this year, and I Bleav that they'll tinker with his contract this offseason, and he'll be a Los Angeles Ram for, I would say, the next couple seasons. Now, I will say this. The Rams do need to start planning for their next quarterback of the future. Yeah, heir apparent. Because they don't really have a viable option behind Stafford. Yeah. I know Jimmy Garoppolo has experience, but he's a bridge quarterback. He's not a franchise-type quarterback. So they do need to start planning for the heir apparent. But I do Bleav, to answer your question, that Stafford will be back next season and probably season after that, honestly.
And he'll be back in a Rams jersey. Like he's going to stay in LA. He's going to stay with Sean McVay. Hard to not look. I mean, why wouldn't you be here in LA? Weather's great. I feel like Stafford's he wants that next Super Bowl. I think he wants to get, Hall of Fame selection. I think he wants that Super Bowl. And as we've seen, this team is capable of doing it. One of the things that I think we were all wondering, I want to get your take on this. And guys, Erin Coscarelli here with Tyler Dragon, Bleav in Rams as we close the season, a tough loss to the Eagles in the divisional round. The defense was really a big question mark and a big storyline heading into the season. Having those two guys you mentioned, Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, were they going to be able to compensate for the void left by Aaron Donald? Take us through what you thought of the evolution of the defense, the identity of the defense, Chris Shula's job as a new defensive coordinator. Because here's my hot take, and you guys feel free to jump in and criticize me. I would have thought, based on the evolution of what we've seen from this pass rush, 16 total sacks, and not that sacks are really the indicator of whether a team is doing well, but we saw an incredible performance from this defense down the stretch against different types of teams. We knew Sam Darnold was not going to be a Jalen Hurts, but they still managed to get after Jalen Hurts 7 times. Got a safety, right? One of the things that I was going to say that might be a little controversial is like they kept Saquon Barkley largely in check, minus those 2 touchdown runs.
Yeah, okay.
They stacked the box. And I think Saquon, with those breakout touchdown runs that had more to do with the weather, he was slippery. He's not an easy guy to take down. But I was impressed by those little tiny runs that they weren't, I mean, the 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, and sometimes they couldn't make it into the end zone. The Rams were stout when they needed to be. I get it. I know it's Saquon. I know he ran for 200 yards. Don't come at me. But I was kind of impressed with what they were able to do against Saquon Barkley and what we've seen from this defense as they've evolved. Granted, heading into the year, the Rams had the 2nd youngest roster. So there was maturity that we saw. Jared Verse, 2 sacks on the day, 3 tackle for loss, 2 QB hits. He made his presence known, and this is why he was selected in the 1st round, obviously.
So I love your optimism right there, because it's like,
bring it.
Minus those 2 long touchdown runs, the Rams run defense played really good.
But that was 200 yards right there. That was 200 yards right there. And they created a hole. Listen, the Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in the game. Yeah. They also have one of the best running backs in the game. Taking Saquon Barkley down is not easy, but in my opinion, I think that the pass rush did what it needed to do when they needed to do it. Aside from those 2 big runs, I was impressed.
So I do think their pass defense played decently. I mean, and their run defense, they had some gaffes in that game. I mean, even Jalen Hurts had a long touchdown run. And it's funny because we mentioned, life after Aaron Donald. If Aaron Donald played in that game, the Rams might have won. Because I don't foresee Saquon having those long runs between the tackles if Aaron Donald's in the game. I don't foresee Jalen Hurts having that long touchdown run if Aaron Donald's in the game. But the Rams are in a very good position now. They have a pick in the late 1st round. They can address the defense again. They can address the offensive line, which I think they need to early on in the draft or in free agency. But defensive-wise, they have an identity, and they have 2 players up front that they can build around, in Fisk and Verse. And I have to give Verse a shout out. I mean, he said a lot pregame, talking about he hates Eagles fans. He had that little pregame yelling at the fans and, talking a whole lot on the field. And he came out and backed it up. He was arguably the best defensive player on the field.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Backed it
he
up.
backed it up. Thank God. Right?
Right. So I have to give him credit. If you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk. That's all I said. And he walked the walk yesterday. And he is a player that could probably win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He'll be in New Orleans, and a player that the Rams certainly can build around. And so they do need to figure out the inside linebacker situation. I think that's kind of a hole in this defense. There's some solid middle linebackers that are going to be available in the draft. There's some in free agency as well. But overall, this defense, like this whole Rams team, exceeded expectations, and they have a young nucleus that they can continue to build around.
Yeah. I just asked the folks too, because I'm curious what they think. What do you think the Rams need to do and address heading into the offseason? It'll be interesting. I mean, you can't deny that Les Snead and Sean McVay, the brain power between the 2 of them, really do such a great job in terms of evaluating and developing talent. And like we've been saying all season long, but certainly down the stretch, the future is bright for this Rams team. What was your take on Kiron Williams? I thought he had some really big bright spots, and then fumbles have been an issue. I want to say he's had 7 fumbles so far this season. That has been an issue. I want to say that was also an issue for him last year. How have you seen Kiron Williams develop? What did you see from him in yesterday's game against the Eagles?
So I Bleav he even had a fumble the last time they played the Eagles at SoFi Stadium. This fumble was, as a running back, literally the first thing you are taught is protect the football more than any other position, because they probably get the ball more than any other position other than the quarterback. So that's priority number one as a running back. He knows that. That's why he had his reaction after he lost that fumble. That is going to be a thing that teams are going to look at and continuing to try to strip the football when he runs. So this offseason for him, he's going to have to work on ball security, being able to protect the football better, because it's on tape that he's lost those 7 fumbles. It's on tape that he had a crucial fumble in the playoffs against the Eagles. Now, again, the weather certainly could play a factor, but as a running back, you got to take care of the football. Saquon Barkley didn't fumble. He played in the same conditions. So that is something he'll have to work on. But overall, he's had a good season. I mean, for a late round pick to be 1,000-yard rusher, to get in the end zone almost every game like he did, overall, I do think he asserted himself well, and he should be proud about his performance this year. And going forward, especially as Matthew Stafford ages and the passing yards per game dwindles a little bit, and you can't rely on his arm as much as you did in the past, Kiron Williams is going to continue to get carries, continue to get touches. Yeah. So he has to continue to improve. And I think he will, because he has that mindset and he has that ability.
Yeah. He certainly does. He's been fun to watch, and you can tell no one's more frustrated by those fumbles than Kiron when he takes his helmet off and they pan in on his reaction. But nonetheless, it's frustrating and it's game-changing. In fact, those 2 costly turnovers in the second half, the Kiron fumble and the Stafford fumble, equaled, I want to say 6 points as the difference maker in the game. And you're right. I think that's going to be the potential plan, is to continue to develop Kiron Williams as a leading back for the Rams and take some of the edge off, take some of the pressure off of Matthew Stafford. One of the other big storylines this season for the Rams is protecting Matthew Stafford and the offensive line. And in the beginning of the season, there was a lot of frustration. Obviously, a lot of injuries, but there was a lot of frustration whether or not to start the rookie, to keep in some veterans. And, they had up to 7 to 9 different iterations of the offensive line, a lot of trying to tinker with it and figure out the equation that works for them up front. Do you think that they finally kind of figured it out, and you think that they're going to move forward with who they have on the line in the future?
So I think they figured it out this season, but for next year and beyond, they haven't figured it out, because Jackson and Noteboom are scheduled to hit free agency. I do Bleav that they need to look into addressing the guard position and tackle. I think those were kind of the weaker spots of the Rams' offensive line. They could decide to bring back Jackson or Noteboom, and hopefully they could improve. But yeah, the offensive line, in fact, I even wrote it in one of my recent articles that is a position of need that the Rams need to address this offseason, especially because they have those 2 free agents. I will say that they, like you said, at the beginning of the season, it was bad. Matthew Stafford was under duress, but then they started to gel. They started to get some continuity. They got healthy at the right time. And so you saw that improvement later on in the season. But now during this offseason, they should really address that position, especially when you're playing with a quarterback who's in his upper 30s.
Erin Coscarelli, Tyler Dragon, recapping the Rams' season loss, divisional round loss to the Eagles. We just want to thank you guys for tuning in, listening. Real quick, a thank you to our sponsor, BetOnline. Continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting, from the earliest odds to in-game live betting. BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. They've got a huge selection of odds on football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC. Are you a UFC fan, Tyler?
A little bit. I don't watch it as much as the NFL, obviously, but if there's a good UFC event on Saturdays, I might spend my
You'll take a
Saturday
peek.
watching.
Yeah,
Are
you'll
you?
take a peek. Yeah, you know what? I mean, I utilize BetOnline. I could get in on the action with a little UFC. Why not? Head to BetOnline today, guys. Don't forget to use the promo code Bleav, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. I want to say too, funny that we're talking about BetOnline. The Rams were what? 6-point underdogs, I want to say.
I believe so.
I
Yeah.
wonder if people ended up making some money or not. But overall, the season was fun. It's always a heartbreaker to get this far and to not be able to close it out with at least a Super Bowl run or appearance in New Orleans. For you, what would you say the best part of covering the Rams was? For me, it was getting to see Sean McVay just really be Sean McVay. I mean, I think when you have that guy on your sideline, you know that's always the advantage. He's had historically struggles against the Eagles, right? Even with Doug Peterson, I think you mentioned. But when it's Sean McVay as your coach, you know you just have like a vault of knowledge and all kinds of situations. And even when I was just like, I was like, couldn't breathe certain moments of the game because the snow, and I was just terrified of an interception or another, turnover or mistake. Knowing Sean McVay it was almost like a security blanket for me.
Yeah. My favorite part to the Rams season just happened recently. It was just their response to all the wildfires that took place, and them being in Glendale, Arizona, and under all that adversity, coming out and probably having their best performance all around of the season at State Farm Stadium, and them winning a playoff game, and being in the locker room with those players, and a lot of them saying they won that and they had that game for the city of LA, and they pretty much dedicated that win to the city of LA and all the victims from the tragic and deadly wildfire. So that was certainly like my most memorable moment of the Rams season, and my favorite moment of all, just their response to adversity and winning a game for a city that wanted some joy and wanted something to feel good about after all the wildfires that have taken place.
Yeah, they had a lot to fight for, and it was cool because you got to be at that game in Arizona, where Arizona, division rival, and the Cardinals, Michael Bidwill, the owner of the Cardinals, sends out his planes, make sure that the Rams team and personnel and staff, even like a couple of dogs, all made it to Arizona safely. They transformed their team shop to be a Rams team shop. To me, it hit home for me because this is why I love sports. I love sports because it brings people together and it gives us all something to root for, something to sort of distract our minds from the hardships that people are going through. There's a, community aspect that we got to see the Rams bring people together. Rams in the Community is another organization that the Rams are a part of. And as an LA native, my own mother having to be evacuated in the fires, it really meant something to me. It made me really proud to be a Los Angelino and to gallivant and pull off the win when the Rams were expecting to have that home field advantage. Certainly meant a lot to me, meant a lot to Rams fans and the LA community that were impacted by the wildfires still going on just a couple of weeks ago, and will be going on as people try to restore the city for years to come. Really quickly, as we wrap up our final show, season show on the Rams as they take on a loss against the Eagles in the divisional round. We do want to thank one more sponsor. And just because the Rams season is over doesn't mean you can't still have fun playing some fantasy. Let me tell you about Underdog Fantasy, Tyler. It's the easiest place to play fantasy sports. All you need to do is pick higher or lower on your favorite player stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money. That's right. So you can like pick between 2 to 8 players and win some money, which I like. Use our promo code Bleav Rams. That's BLEAV Rams. And the promo code will give new users a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So play along with us and make some money. Well, look, this has been fun. I think we should still do some shows on the rest of the postseason, how things evolve. I'm bummed that we're not going to be talking about the Rams, a team that we know so well, but it should be interesting. Now that the Rams season is over, let's talk NFC Championship, because that's who the Eagles were going to play. Were you a little surprised that the Commanders got in there?
I was surprised, but that's another reason why I was hoping the Rams would win, because LA could host a playoff game.
Yep.
Jaden Daniels, he does not play like a rookie. He's obviously going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but his poise, his ability to throw under pressure and with accuracy, man, it's just been a remarkable thing to watch. The Eagles are a buzzsaw, though. I know they split the season series, those two NFC East rivals. I just think that Saquon Barkley is playing at a very high level, and that defense collectively is a better unit than the Commanders have. So I do think the Eagles are going to win that game, but I'm just truly impressed by Jaden Daniels from the Southern California area too, I might add.
So there you go. Are you then predicting Eagles Bills who do you think is the Super Bowl?
Do you think I'm going to bet against Patrick Mahomes? Absolutely not. I have the Eagles and the Chiefs. It's a Super Bowl rematch, a Super Bowl 57 rematch. Okay. It's hard to bet against the Chiefs. They're undefeated at home this year. The Bills beat them earlier this season. So I do think that's going to even motivate the Chiefs even more. They will have their antennas up for this game. They'll be motivated to play. And to me, Hollywood Brown's emergence in the offense, along with DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy. We know what Travis Kelce can do in the postseason, but I do Bleav that the Chiefs get their passing game going, and they have a better defense than the Bills have. So I have the Chiefs winning.
You have the Chiefs winning against the Bills, but do you think
and the Super Bowl? Who do you have? What are your predictions?
I don't know. I like a new.
Okay.
I like
you
new
want
flavor,
the you want the Bills and the Commanders in the post.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. Oh man, Tyler, it's been so much fun. I really appreciate your perspective on all things the NFL, but certainly the Rams. It's been so much fun to get the opportunity to chop it up with you every post game, whether it's Victory Monday or a divisional round loss against the Eagles. It's always fun to pick your brain. You've been covering the NFL for a really long time. You're super bright and super fun. So let's do this again. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to us week in and week out. We really appreciate it. I'm Erin Coscarelli alongside Tyler Dragon. That's it for Bleav in Rams. Hopefully we'll be back with some more fun stuff in the future. But Rams season comes to a close in the divisional round against the Eagles. Thanks everyone for tuning in. See you next time.